Hey folks, Dust here, and I decided to make a video for YouTube to talk a little bit about my initial reactions to the new nuke that came out in the recent CSGO update here on the 17th of February of 2016. And I know a lot of other people will probably make videos as well, like Adren and all your other famous YouTubers out there, and I'm sure that it'll be of better quality, but I thought I would kind of just give my 2 cents as well. Also, I do want to apologize. I know the microphone quality is complete ass, but I'm recording this with fraps because I'm too stupid to know a better way to do this. I didn't feel like recording separate audio and video and syncing it all up. So, yeah, this is what you got. Do apologize for the mic, but hopefully you'll still enjoy some of the insight. First off, I'm not going to talk really about aesthetics at all. To me, I think that aesthetically it is a bit of a facelift to the old nuke. And that's enough for me, to be honest. Some people may think it's ugly. Some people may like how it looks. Some people may care more about aesthetics. I personally care more about how it plays and how it functions. And thus, I'm not really going to talk about that at all. Sorry if that's disappointing. But let's talk about outside first. So first of all, they streamlined how to get on roof. Now you just use a ladder and you zip up here rather than having to jump on a couple of different boxes to get up here, and so the whole process is just quicker, which I would assume means you'd be able to get up here quicker to do, spams on the roof into the upper bomb site. Important to note that you can only spam this one way, so only terrorists can actually spam through this through the windows here, and terrorists are not able to spam back. So that kind of makes it for one-sided battles, which means that's something CTs have to think about when they're getting positions up here and upper. So yeah, definitely something to think about. Obviously this metal is not spammable either way, even with an op, so it's just all about the windows, and again, you can only spam it from this side. So outside of just the whole battles exchanging spams, the other thing to think about is that CTs used to be able to, when they heard someone getting on top of the silo, be able to like spam them and maybe even get a kill. But now you can just safely get up here, and there's really no penalty for being up here, except for once you actually peek out and take duels. But just getting to this spot, there's no penalty. CTs can't punch you for being up here off the sound cues or anything like that. But you can certainly spam them as you shoot through. Right, so something to think about as well, which I guess makes this whole roof experience a little bit more T-sided than it used to be. From the roof, this is exactly the same to get into lobby, but this is where we talk about how easy everything really is on this game. You can get up on silo, no problem. There's no more air strafe jumps or anything like that, or needing a player to boot you up if you couldn't figure out how to jump up here by yourself. That is all gone, which means it's way easier to get up here, which means it'll likely get used more, which means CTs will certainly have to pay this a little bit more mind than they probably already were. So that is something to kind of think about with this particular jump. And that theme pretty much holds through the rest of outside. So for example, if you get on top of hut, you can now literally just walk up these stairs here and get on the catwalk and wrap around outside to heaven. Now, I don't know if you were familiar with Nuke before, if you're a newer player, but this was really difficult to do in the past. First of all, the catwalk was all at this height here, if not maybe even a little bit higher, rather than this crazy drop-off that you have now, which basically meant you had to get 2 players on top of the hut, and a player would have to boost you, and you'd have to jump around with a player boosting you for help to get onto this catwalk as a terrorist to do an attack onto heaven this way, which basically translated to the fact that this was rarely done because it was hard to do. You might only see it once or twice a game, if at all, and there would be plenty of games where you wouldn't see it ever. So now it's just going to be much easier to do this, and that certainly is something to think about. Basically just all the skill jumps that used to be there are pretty much gone. It's the same case over here. You used to have to use 2 players to boost your way up onto this roof, and then if you wanted to boost into heaven, you'd actually have to have 3 people do it because you would need a base to get you up here with your teammate, and then your teammate would crouch and would, let you jump to get into heaven on top of this roof above lockers. But now, again, you can do all this by yourself, which basically just means there's so much more that CTs have to worry about from just one individual player when it comes to all this different stuff outside. So I guess that gives terrorists more options. It also just makes everything a lot easier and a lot less skilled as far as doing different jumps and things. We'll see what type of impact that really has. It seems like it would give terrorists more options and balance out the map a little bit more in favor of terrorists than it used to be. You'd still be able to do all your standard outside stuff as well, like smoke walls to get into secret, you know, and your different, you know, mini, you know, getting on top of hut and dropping down, attacking mini, you know, all that stuff is going to be pretty much relatively the same. But this whole added, I guess, ease of ability to attack heaven and the catwalk and get up here and all that stuff will certainly add more options and make these types of attacks more likely, as it will be so much easier to do. Now, other than that, outside, a lot is pretty much the same. I mean, the whole route from secret to the back halls is pretty much exactly the same. Now, once you get into back halls and lower, things are different. We'll address that in a moment, but this part, very much the same. I think there's a slight difference. You used to be able to kind of hide underneath something and people would walk past you as a CT, but now there is nothing really to crouch and hide under. Now you're just right here on the side. So I guess that is a little bit different. Maybe some of the angles are slightly different, but for the most part it seems pretty much the same. So there's not really too much to address there. It seems like there's some different angles for CTs though when it comes to outside. I mean, I guess you could still kind of see this cross from here as you could before with an op or something like that if you want to watch outside this way. But this is a little bit harder to do. You used to just quickly be able to jump on top of a box and get up here and op outside. But now you have to go over here and jump up here. And so that may affect the timing of a CT wanting to peek outside using any of these types of crates or anything like that. So something to think about. The outside big garage seems pretty much the same. There is no sandbag to hide behind like you used to be able to do. But there's still, you know, I guess maybe other things you can try to hide behind or get a different angle on. But yeah, for the most part, I feel like this won't play too much differently as far as this particular angle. But there's certainly a lot of other things that I've already addressed. Lockers, this box is a little bit differently placed, but you still should be able to crouch behind it, I guess, if you wanted to. You still have this vision to watch across the secret if it's not smoked off, so this is pretty much all the same when it comes to outside. But now we'll take a look at lobby and the upper bomb site and such. So first of all, with lobby, there's not a whole lot different about this. There's a couple of different things placed a bit differently. Obviously, like I said, aesthetically, it's going to be a little bit different. When it comes to Squeaky Hall, again, there's a couple little different things, but nothing too drastic. Nothing that you would really notice a whole heck of a lot. But once you actually start pressing into the upper bomb site, things do get a bit different. So first of all, with Squeaky, there's still this vent here, so you can still do Squeaky to lower drops, but it is certainly true that because this vent doesn't exist anymore, terrorists used to be able to go down here, go up back halls, and come back up to upper and do like different kind of upper splits that way. So that whole dynamic has changed. But obviously the bigger impact of this is the limit it has on CTs being able to rotate to retake lower. So that is something to kind of think about. So I guess my point is it seems like the whole impact of terrorists being able to split upper by coming, you know, down, around, and up, nothing is near the impact that it is for CTs to actually rotate and retake the lower bomb site through this. So, yeah, that whole vent not being there, definitely more of an effect on CTs than Ts for sure. Another thing to think about coming out of Squeaky when it comes to the upper bomb site is the fact that all of this is no longer playable as a CT. So that really limits the amount of spots that CTs have playing upper, with literally just like pretty much half of the upper rafters are gone, right? They are exactly half. So that means that if you're a terrorist and you're coming out of Squeaky Door, yeah, you still have to worry about people on the ground and maybe hiding up here. Yes, you still have to worry about people playing inside this corner or playing behind this vent, which you can actually just spam though. And actually to spam people on the other side. I think you could do that before too, so maybe it's not that big of a deal. But the point is yes, you still have all these lower angles you have to worry about as far as, you know, peeking at head level when you first come out the door, but you don't have to worry about looking up anymore. at all. Now, certainly people could still be playing on top of hut, but no one can be playing like it used to be a thing where you had to come out here and you had so much to worry about. You know, you had to worry about all this or people being right above you or whatever. But now you can simply open the door, fight this, or you know, open the door, clear this, clear that, clear this, and then worry about that. So it just makes it a little bit easier to clear as a terrorist. I feel like you have a little bit less to worry about, which means that executing the upper bomb site through the door should be a little bit easier for terrorists, right? So again, swinging it a little bit more in the terrorist favor than it used to be. Also, coming out of hut, easier. Now people can't just play inside heaven. You could, if someone decides they want to be passive and play inside heaven, you could actually get out without them ever really even seeing you, which will basically force CTs to play a little bit different positions. I mean, yeah, they can still hide, you know, around the silos, and they can still play, you know, this whole stretch and play on top of hut. So I mean, there's still certainly a lot of options for CTs to defend the upper bomb site, but some of it has been taken away as far as some of the angles and vision that CTs used to have, as well as, like I said, just half of the upper rafters are completely gone, right? So there is definitely some limitations now. Also, this angle seems a lot wider to me. Maybe I'm just crazy, but it seems like it's a little bit easier to spot things as a terrorist coming out, which means maybe it's a little bit easier to clear stuff once again when it comes to executing out the hut doorway. Again, making it a little bit easier on terrorists. It's also like way easier to get out this window as a terrorist as well, which might have an impact. But the other thing to think about is CTs actually being able to get up here a lot easier as well. In the past, you would have to do some type of skill jump, falling off of the hut and air strafing your way through the window, or jumping on top of this vent and then jumping in. But now you can simply just do it from the ground, which could mean that a terrorist holding this angle has to be a little bit more weary of his CT, you know, jumping through the window and creeping around and killing them. So there is that whole thing as well to think about when it comes to hut. Other than that, I know you're supposed to be able to play on top of these silos, which is kind of crazy. I would hope that this gets removed at some point and this isn't actually a thing. So I won't really worry a whole lot about that. I feel like that might be a little bit of an oversight. But who knows? Maybe they did intend that, in which case that would be kind of weird, right? Getting on top of hut's different. Or excuse me, about the same, but this is a bit different. You used to have to boost a player up into the rafters if you were a terrorist trying to get a post-plant position, or a CT trying to maybe get back up here for some reason, but now you simply have a ladder that gets you back up. So again, kind of minimizing the need for boost. In fact, it seems like you don't really need boost at all anymore for a lot of different things. Maybe boost can still be useful in other areas, but yeah, I just kind of wanted to point that out really quick. Also do point out that you can't spam lower from upper as much, but it still is possible. But maybe just, you know, the locations are a bit different on exactly where you can do it and such. But I haven't really messed around with spams too much when it comes to the floor. Obviously, this is still completely spammable, different things like that. As far as going the upper bomb site to ramp room, might be able to still op it, but can't do it with rifles, though I don't know that you could before. And that pretty much talks about the upper bomb site, I think, for the most part. So when it comes to ramp room, this all seems about the same. The angle might be a little bit different, but it still seems about the same to me. You can still bank nades off of this. This glass doesn't break or anything like that. So a lot of this is pretty much the same as far as going from lobby into ramp room. Ramp room itself is a little bit different. If you're a terrorist coming out, there are some things you no longer really have to worry about like you used to. So for one, people used to be able to just play like really close here, which means they could actually, if they wanted to, set up some kind of crossfire with a guy here and a guy up against this wall, which would make it a little bit difficult to get out. But now the angle is different. I mean, a CT can still hold this angle or hold this angle, but they don't really have any cover to swing back around, which means that they're either completely exposed. I mean, you could literally cross and check all this without having to really worry about coming all the way out to clear this corner and possibly getting shot that way. So it makes it a little bit easier, I think, to you know, maybe check that, get a smoke off, you know, check that, and without ever exposing yourself to any of this, right? So it seems like it might be a bit easier to clear because of that whole deal with all these boxes being here and such. Also, CTs, I don't think they can boost up here anymore like they used to be able to do. I mean, yeah, you could spot feet in the past anyway, but that's pretty much all gone. So there has been certainly a couple of things removed for CTs, I guess, here in the ramp room. Also, you used to be able to do some different boost stuff, like crazily up here. It was pretty rare, certainly, but now it's completely gone to do any type of, like, boosting up on different things up here, I believe. Maybe I'm wrong, but it seems that way. Other than that, pretty much the same for ramp room. You know, they still have the same 2 ways to get to the lower bomb site. You know, you still have the route across to get, you know, into lockers and into heaven. So pretty much all that is the same. Not too much to talk about when it comes to all of that. But now we're going to talk about the lower bomb site, and that is where there is certainly a lot to talk about. So first off, coming into the lower bomb site, there's a whole new room. It's going to be right here. I guess this could be kind of like the new toxic, so to speak. Completely changed the location. It's a closed-in room, a small room that CTs could either play, kind of just hiding out, waiting in the lower bomb site, or it's certainly a post-plant position as well. It does have a window also. So this is just a whole new room to think about that can be used by both sides for different things. This whole corner is pretty much the same. Walking the rafters either way is pretty much the same. This window room here, again, pretty much the same as it always was. You know, this whole spot right here, the same. Doors coming in, you know, this is all the same. So not really too much to comment on that. However, there are a couple of big things to talk about here before we wrap this thing up. And that is this door here, which leads to back halls. So it used to be that the doors were right across from each other. But now it's actually, you know, here and even covered by the site silo itself. And of course, this door is just a new route to get into back halls. Now, like in Counter-Strike Source and stuff, this did exist, but again, it was, I think, pretty much even with those doors. So basically, they added this route back from the old days of Nuke, but they definitely changed the door location a little bit, right? Also now, there's only one vent. We already talked about how there's only this one vent to get through as a CT rotating from upper to lower, but there's also only one way out as well to get into the lower bomb site. Which basically limits retaking a little bit for CTs. As a terrorist, you can now kind of safely plant for this without having to worry about getting shot up by someone coming through the vent here. But just as this is a new route for terrorists to attack lower once they have control of back halls, it is also a new place for CTs to retake from. So it's almost as if you just took this vent route that you used to have and you just made it this route instead. So I guess the number of routes aren't necessarily different, but how you use them and how you get to them certainly are. And this will play on both sides, CT and T, when it comes to executing and retaking as far as its effects on how the lower bomb site operates. But we'll obviously have to see some games on it to really see how it plays out. And other than that, I think I pretty much covered everything that I wanted to. We talked about the lower bomb site, the new room, the new route over here, the lack of a vent, and the lack of the vent upper as well when it comes to CTs rotating. So we pretty much addressed all of that. Let's see here. We also addressed ramp room as pretty much being the same, a couple of small differences on certain angles and corners to clear, but for the most part, pretty much the same. And we certainly talked about outside, you know, how it's just so much easier to do all these different things with jumping up on top of silo and attacking the catwalk into heaven and, you know, getting up to heaven from here as well. Just all just super easy now. All can be done individually, and that certainly will add some pressures to CTs on keeping their eyes on outside and how terrorists are using it, as well as giving more options to terrorists, or making options easier for terrorists when it comes to attacking outer. We also talked about the whole spamming thing, which certainly is going to favor terrorists now that CTs can't spam back, as well as being able to spam people on silo, so that's going to help tease out a little bit as well, it seems. And then we talked, of course, about the upper bomb side, about the different angles at hut, about the different angles on T's being able to get out without being spotted heaven, as well as the fact that all of this half of the upper bomb site is now no longer in play. I think this is probably the most drastic change, in my opinion, to Nuke, is the fact that all of this is no longer a thing, which certainly is going to affect the amount of spots CTs have to play inside the upper bomb site, as well as how it affects how terrorists execute, as coming out of Squeaky Door to attack upper is going to be a bit easier, as you have a lot less to worry about when you're clearing things to actually take control of the upper bomb site. So all in all, we'll have to see exactly the impact that the changes have on Nuke once we actually see some games played. But from what I can tell, it seems like it is going to make this map a bit more T-sided than it used to be, if not a lot more so than it used to be, just because the outside options for Terrorist are a little bit more, and all the options that were there before seem easier, especially when it comes to Catwalk and all that stuff. The upper bomb site seems a little bit easier to attack as well, due to some of the added cover that you have, as well as some of the different angles that have been changed, as well as the whole Squeaky Door thing. And for CTs, it's going to be a little bit harder to rotate and retake, as some options have been eliminated, so to speak. So yeah, these are just initial reactions. Again, I think we need to see a bit more play on it first before we really come to some crazy conclusions or have any final decisions on what we think about it. But these are just my initial reactions, and again, I'm sure there will be a lot of other videos out there as well that will probably do an even better job than I have. But yeah, hope you liked it. If you enjoyed it, please do follow and subscribe for more. Thanks a lot.